Welcome to Trying to Conceive with Dr. Sasha Hakman, where we break down the science of fertility, share real patient stories, and explore the latest innovations in reproductive medicine. My name is Dr. Sasha Hakman, and I'm a double board certified OBGYN and reproductive endocrinologist and infertility specialist. I practice at HRC Fertility in Beverly Hills, but this podcast is an independent project created and hosted by me separate from my clinical work. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you want exclusive updates and resources, be sure to sign up for my newsletter. Just click the link in the episode description. Okay, so today's episode is a patient story, and joining me is Kayla Barnes, where we're going to talk all about fertility preservation.
So excited.
Yeah, we're going to discuss what led you to want to preserve your fertility, how you decided between egg freezing versus embryo banking, the lifestyle changes that were implemented to maximize egg quality and possibly sperm quality, and what you were doing that led to what I would consider as a fertility specialist, the fastest recovery after an egg retrieval that I've ever seen, especially given such high ovarian reserve.
Thank you.
So Kayla Barnes is not only a friend and a prior patient of mine, she's also the owner of Live the Wellness Space, one of the country's most innovative precision medicine and biology upgrading clinics. Kayla is also the creator and host of the Longevity Optimization podcast, which I'm obsessed with and everyone should listen to, and co-founder of the Health Optimization Fund. Kayla also just launched the world's first female longevity membership. She has dedicated herself to the pursuit of preventative and regenerative methodologies aimed at optimizing female human health and has shared her labs publicly. And she's one of, if not the most measured woman in the world, which is amazing. So cool. Her endeavors have garnered international recognition from notable publications, and she's been named a top longevity leader globally. She's been featured in Fortune, Forbes, Business Insider, the New York Post, the Daily Mail, and the list just goes on. So thank you so much for agreeing to do this with me, especially for a brand new podcast.
Of course. Thank you for inviting me. What a fun topic. And I'm so excited for you.
Yeah. I just think that it's, I love the patient education piece of it, but I think that as doctors, sometimes what we're lacking is the patient side and the patient experience. And I think that you add a different level of information and insight as someone who is so well-versed in wellness and longevity.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So what led you to initially start even thinking about fertility preservation? I know that a lot of people have different reasons for egg freezing. One of the most common being focusing on their careers versus not having a partner in the picture. But in your case, you're happily married. You guys know that you want to have kids. So what sort of started that conversation for you?
Yeah. I actually started thinking about it probably 5 years ago, because I just turned 34. So I was in my late 20s then. And I have been very focused on my career. I started my first company when I was 17. I've been an entrepreneur my entire life. And I've been building Live for about the last 5 years. So I was so focused on work. My head was just down. And so I thought about 5 years ago about doing it. And for whatever reason, it just didn't happen. And it's funny because I actually kind of started the process a little bit just with some labs when I was still in Ohio, but then I met my husband and I was like, this was meant to be, that we were supposed to do this together, which I truly believe was the fact. So, fast forward, we got married, and I honestly probably wouldn't have done egg freezing and, even embryo creation, and we'll get into that, if I just wanted like one or two babies, at 34. As you mentioned, I do an inordinate amount of labs. So I know what my health status is. And so if I wanted one or two, I probably would have maybe just started trying. But we both came from big families. I was one of 5. He was one of 6. It was really a vision that we both share of having a lot of children. So, I think I told you we're down to have like 5, 6, 7 kids, really as many as God gives us. So made a lot of sense for me, even though I'm in great health now. You never know what could happen in the future. Right. And also, hopefully we'll just have babies. I would love to have twins like 3 times and just have 6 babies for efficiency. But
as an OBGYN, I'm sort of like, oh my God, high risk. I get it.
But that would be the most efficient way to do it. I'd love to do that.
Yes.
But odds are that won't happen. Even though twins do run in my family. So
okay.
I don't think I ever mentioned that to you.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, my grandma is a twin, identical twin.
Oh, wow.
And then they say it skips a generation. Is there any truth to that or no?
So actually, I think that the common misconception is that all twins run in families, but identical twins are pretty like baseline risk of identical twins are the same for everyone. What tends to run in the families are fraternal twins. And it's just this tendency of ovulating more than one egg at once.
Interesting. Well, so my grandma was an identical twin. And then my mom and her brother neither had sets of twins. But my cousin had twins, fraternal twins.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So
there
interesting.
You go. Yeah, it is interesting. You never know.
Yeah, who knows? So yeah, long story short, we want lots of babies and, we're going to start trying naturally now. And then we have those eggs frozen and a couple embryos that we can use later once they get a little bit older.
It's really insightful that you were already thinking that, because I even get some patients who are physicians who, they started having baby number 1 and then number 2, and they decided they want a third kid or even a second in some cases where they really just did not plan. And now we're dealing with a woman in her late 30s, early 40s who's struggling to conceive due to age-related changes in ovarian reserve and egg quality. So I commend you for thinking ahead and knowing you want multiple kids. And at this point in time, like most of us are starting a lot later in life to build our families, where we're starting, mid-30s on average. So.
Yeah. Well, I think, you obviously got to know me pretty well and you got to know my husband pretty well. We're big planners. So, I mean, it's such an important, it's the most important thing, right? Outside of like who you choose, I think as a spouse, thinking if you really want children, which I always have and really want a big family. It was important to me that I think through that now, like, when I have the ability to.
Yeah. Now, prior to this, was there ever anyone sort of pressuring you to think about it? How did it sort of creep in your mind? I know that in your case, you're such a planner and you're extremely well-versed in healthcare and you just know a lot more than the average person, probably even more than a lot of healthcare professionals, frankly. But did you ever feel any external pressures?
Well, my mom, I love her so much. She was just here in LA. She had so much fun. She was so cute.
So great.
But my mom, I mean, in my family, everybody has kids pretty early, right? So my brother, he married his high school sweetheart. He just had baby number 3. He's the middle child. I'm the oldest. I'm the only oldest grandchild. I was the last one to get married. I don't have any children yet. So, my family is just like Midwest family. Like that's what they do. So everyone was like a little worried about me. Like, are you going to get married? Are you going to have kids? I know you want them. And so there was that in my head, but also, I knew it would happen. And I knew I would find someone. So it was kind of both, but I'm so happy I did this because I brought this up real fast with my husband. As you know, we had a very untraditional marriage dating story. So, I mean, we were married within about 5 months of meeting each other. And
so amazing.
The second question he ever asked me was like, do you want a lot of kids? And so it was definitely, it was very not traditional, but I'm really happy we did it that way. And, I'm just excited that we did this because it was a big thing for me. I was like, I want to freeze my eggs before we start trying because we'll get the highest quality eggs. I had just turned 34 and so he was totally on board with that. So if you have the ability and you do want children for sure, like knowing the stats of fertility these days, even though I know that I'm probably not in that bucket because of everything I do, it's still super concerning. So if you have the resources, I mean, you want a big family. I mean, it's something that obviously I think should be considering. Yeah.
Yeah. Leading up to your cycle, were there things that you looked into, specific lifestyle changes that you implemented, and what specifically were they?
Yeah. Well, first I would like to say that I interviewed a lot of doctors. I don't know if you even know this, but I think I mentioned it to you.
Yeah, you did.
It was super important to me that I had a physician that was open to kind of my ideology on fertility and the ability to improve it. A lot of times people say there's just absolutely nothing you can do and environmental toxins don't make a difference and this doesn't make a difference. And for me, that wouldn't have been a great alignment. And so you were just perfect. So I'm so glad that we met.
Thank you.
And you were so fun and amazing. And like the care was just absolutely excellent. Like Thank you. You're really incredible. And leading up to it, I mean, wow, I do a lot of stuff. You know that. Yeah. So I'll keep it.
Do you mind sharing sort of some of the basic categories to start with of what you do?
Yeah. So I do as mentioned, inordinate amount of labs. So I do, quarterly gut testing. I do quarterly total toxic burden testing, which is molds, mycotoxins, environmental toxins, heavy metals. I'm doing, about 200 different just blood biomarkers, omega indexes, oxidative stress profiles, neurotransmitter profiles. I mean, the list just goes on and on. Prenuvo, so like I do a lot of imaging, so full body MRIs, like something called clearly soft plaque analysis, so looking inside of the arteries for soft plaques, not just calcified plaques. So I do all of these different things, and I'm always aiming to have those labs be in like the top 1% of labs, right? So it really varies, but I think the biggest thing is always the basics, right? Like mastering the basics. And everybody always asks me like, what IVs are you doing and what supplements are you taking? And at the end of the day, I think for just overall health, and I'm sure you would agree, it's those mastering the basics. So super high quality sleep. I, measure all my sleep with an Oura ring. I'm actually wearing a Whoop right now too, because I want to see the differences in scores.
Yeah, you'll have to keep me posted.
I will. But, high quality sleep, I think specifically for women, as I've gone along this longevity optimization journey, I started with these like for men by men protocols, right? And then I realized like, no, my thyroid numbers are declining. My hormones are becoming a little bit dysregulated because I was doing way too much. I was like cold plunging every day and exercise and fasting. It was way too much. So I dialed it back, and now I'm really navigating this world of what does the like for women by women longevity protocol look like? But anyways, back to the basics, really high quality sleep. And it's interesting because the research shows that women need between like 11 and 20 minutes more of sleep per night. But I found that I even need more than that, about an hour more than my husband.
Second that. I second that.
Yeah. So I think really focusing on my sleep, nutrition, eating only single ingredients, like ultra processed foods, in my opinion, just have no place in a healthy diet in general, but specifically, and please correct me if I say anything wrong here, but we have about 3 months, right? If you are going to optimize egg quality to really dial everything in. So I would be focusing on like single ingredient foods, super high quality. I love things like bone broth and grass-fed, grass-finished meats and wild caught like fatty fish. And I even love sardines, really love healthy fats like avocado and high quality EVOO and big salads, just, single ingredients, getting all the fiber and thinking about our micronutrients. Are we getting minerals and vitamins from our food? I think that's really important. So I would definitely optimize that. Exercise. I think if there was one thing for longevity, it would be exercise. So I really program my exercise around all the longevity metrics. But I think when I actually go to try to get pregnant, I'll dial back the intensity a little bit. I'll get your opinion too. Because right now I'm doing like VO2 max training twice a week, and I'm doing strength and cardio and mobility and flexibility. So might dial that back.
So, it's a little controversial. The American College of OB/GYN actually states that whatever you are already conditioned to doing, you can continue to do.
Okay, nice.
And so even professional athletes, technically when they get pregnant, they can continue whatever they're actually doing. And some Olympians will continue their training even throughout pregnancy until they feel like they really just can't perform anymore. So I really think that it's a case-by-case basis, but it's more of a listen to your body type situation.
Yeah.
If you feel like you just can't push as hard for whatever reason, then you listen to your body. But if you feel like you can, and you're already conditioned to doing it, there shouldn't be any harm in continuing.
That makes a lot of sense, because probably what we're trying to avoid is significantly overstressing the body, right? So if you're used to doing this, probably maintaining it is fine.
Right.
So
and if you got pregnant, even through treatment, while you're doing all this exercising, obviously your body is capable of sort of doing both.
Yeah.
Sometimes what I have seen in the past is, particularly with professional athletes, is they train so hard, they're potentially not getting enough nutrients in. So as they're trying to get pregnant, things aren't working out. We even start trying, minor treatment. They're not really responding. And that's where I say, okay, maybe let's cut back on the exercise, reduce it to an hour a day, no more than that. And sometimes I'll actually see like a resumption of regular menstrual cycle and predictable ovulation. So,
nice.
Women with a low BMI are the most susceptible to it. So if your BMI is below 21,
Yeah.
the normal range, then
Mine is technically, yeah.
Yeah. So you might be a little bit more susceptible to having some sort of irregular ovulatory pattern. But if you are ovulating really regularly throughout the exercise, and you're able to time intercourse, and with all the access you have to getting labs done, and, you know, being able to actually measure your hormones to know that you are ovulating, then it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah. I've been doing these at home hormone tests.
Like in neato type stuff, or
the Mira.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It's been fun. I mean,
Great.
it's been fun to
Yeah.
see. So I don't think you're meant to do one every single day of the entire cycle. I think it's just supposed to be around.
Right.
But yeah, I've been doing that because I just want to see like what's going on. It's
I want
pretty
to see
fun.
the curves.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
exciting.
Yeah, it's so fun. So that, I mean, yeah, nutrition, sleep, exercise. I mean, just basic stuff that I know is good for hormone optimization for women, like getting a little bit of sun in the eyes in the morning, and stress reduction, being in nature, and social connection even. I mean, we know it's great for longevity, but like reducing the stress and feeling connected. I would just assume anything that's good for longevity is also good for fertility.
Yeah.
Can we?
Yeah. I think it's safe to assume that anything that's good for your overall health and wellness should be good for your fertility as well.
Yeah. So we both did that. And I mean, my husband, you know, we worked on quite a few things with him too. So, I mean, and then taking neonatal, prenatal. So really getting nutrients optimized. I do a test called, it's a micronutrient status test. It's the retrieval. So I also did that and make sure that my nutrients are all optimized. And it just really looks at just about everything. You know, all the B vitamins, C's, of course, D's, omegas, but it's also looking at like selenium and copper and, you know, all the nutrients you could really want to optimize. I have a printout and say, okay, let's target supplement with these X things so that I can be optimal. So, I mean, I did
You're
much.
not guessing here. You know exactly.
Yeah. We're definitely not guessing. So not that everyone needs to do that, obviously, but this is just taking it to like the nth degree. And then of course I did a lot of like my optimization stuff. So I did, you know, I have a hyperbaric oxygen chamber at my home. We've seen that.
Yeah.
That is also not super common. And the literature is still really, you know, developing here. We do know that hyperbaric, there are studies to support that it can improve sperm quality, which is important. But I know a lot of studies are being done now to look at AMH and just in general fertility outcomes. But what I do know is the hyperbaric puts me into like a parasympathetic state, like immediately. Like I look at my Oura ring and I go from like being stressed in the working day. As soon as I get an HBOT, it drops to restored immediately and I stay there. So
interesting.
Even if that was the only benefit, then I mean, I think I would be fine with that. But from a first principles thinking, and I think some of these areas, we just have to do that because I think we both know women have not been really included in the medical literature and required to be in testing until early 1990s, right?
Right.
So some things I'll be honest, like a lot of stuff is of course backed by science, like the basics, but some things I'm just trying and seeing how it goes. And that was really fun when I did the, when we did the retrieval, because I did 2 sessions of hyperbaric after that. And I did red light therapy like on the ovaries, because to me, it just made sense. Red light therapy is anti-inflammatory, can improve the mitochondria. And I'm always thinking about mitochondria when it comes to ovarian function, because we know that the ovaries or the oocytes in the ovaries have one of the highest concentrations of mitochondria. So I'm like, okay, if I can get better blood flow with the hyperbaric oxygen, because we also know HBOT can help with even ED because of the blood flow.
Yes.
So did a little bit of hyperbaric oxygen leading up to it and had positive thoughts. You know, I think that's an important piece. Like you can take all the supplements, you can eat all the right things, but if you have like chaos going in on your mind or you're way too stressed, then that's going to take a toll on you, biologically and not only, psychologically. So.
If you're trying to conceive, the supplements you take now really matter, especially when it comes to supporting your fertility from the inside out. As a double board certified OBGYN and reproductive specialist, I'm often asked what I personally recommend to patients preparing for pregnancy. My go-to is Bird & Bee's Female Fertility Power Prenatal plus CoQ10 pack. It's a preconception powerhouse, combining your prenatal, DHA, and powerful antioxidants into one easy daily pack, so no more juggling bottles. Here's what sets it apart is the clinical grade support for egg quality. You get 600 milligrams of CoQ10, shown in studies to significantly improve IVF outcomes, and boost ovulation for those with PCOS. It also includes NAC, which helps reduce oxidative stress. And unlike most prenatals, it doesn't skip essentials like folic acid, the only form still recommended by the American Society of Reproductive Medicine, methylated folate, choline, preformed vitamin A, nutrients that play critical roles in fetal development and egg health. Plus, you're getting iron to improve blood count and vitamin E for improved blood flow. It's vegan, gluten-free, third-party tested, plus tested for heavy metals. It's also formulated by fertility doctors and naturopaths, so I know my patients are getting the support they need with none of the unnecessary fillers. Want to try female fertility power prenatal for yourself? Head to birdandbee.com/Sasha Hakman MD and use the code TTC podcast at checkout to get 10% off your first order. That's TTC podcast for 10% off because your fertility deserves clinically backed support.
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely some physiologic impacts to, having poor mental health and being in a very chronically stressed situation. Mm-hmm. So that's obviously not where we're meant to stay long term. So there's definitely a lot to it. And as a fertility specialist, I could tell which patients have good support and good community and how it translates into their cycle outcomes, but also their cycle experience. Yeah. So those who have really good support, who feel like they just really have loved ones in their corner, that they're in a they're at peace with going through this, it seems to really look different than those who, particularly if we're talking about egg freezing, there are a lot of women out there who look at it as a form of failure. Like, I'm still single. This is me failing to find a partner. And I always have to reframe it in their minds that no, what you're doing here is so empowering. Yeah. You are taking your future into your own hands and not relying on somebody else to give that to you. Yeah. So I definitely think you're right. Your state of mind is a big deal in addition to all the other things that we can control. Absolutely. So from a medical perspective, when it comes to fertility preservation, there are two main options that are mainstream, so to speak, that patients can access. And that's either egg freezing or creating embryos. And there's this big misconception that creating embryos is better than freezing eggs because, the eggs just don't survive long term, which isn't necessarily the case. Our egg freezing techniques are amazing that they can actually last indefinitely. And I've recently thawed 10-year-old eggs where all of them survived and they did great. Wow. And great. So, it seems to be really, really promising. And we have good data to show that now. But in your case, you're happily married, that you want to have kids. Mm-hmm. So what made you decide, and you could talk, I'll let you talk more about how you decided egg freezing versus embryo banking versus both.
Yes. Well, I want to first off say thank you for all your patience and conversations about this while we were discussing it. So, my husband and I, we are Christians. And so we did really think a lot about this. It was really important to us that we, in our opinions, made the right choice for us as a family. So, we really thought about a lot of different options and we'll kind of walk through everything. But so I got 27 mature eggs. So it was quite a few. So then
I thought we got 37 total. No,
I thought it was, no, 27. Did I say 37 or 27?
Was it 27?
I think we had 27 mature, right?
I thought it was more.
20?
I'm pretty sure it was more.
Really? How many?
Yeah, I thought it was 36 or 37. And now I have to double check.
Okay. Well, I'll just say we got quite a few then.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe I'm wrong here. So we got
30 at least.
Yeah, we got close to 30 mature eggs. And so then my husband and I had to have the conversation, what do we do here? So we know that we want to have a lot of children, but we don't necessarily know that we want to have 15. So we ultimately decided to freeze half and then create embryos from the other half because only because of our personal preference, we are going to have all the embryos that we actually created as long as they are viable for life, as you taught me this term, right?
Yeah. Well, I would say viable is, it's hard to really use another word, but we sort of just say viability in terms of the chromosomal abnormalities. Yes. So when we do, for anyone listening who doesn't understand the process, when we create embryos in a lab, by the time that they develop into what's called a blastocyst, so a day 5 to 7 embryo, we can biopsy about 5 to 10 cells on the outer portion of the embryo for chromosomal testing. And that gives us an idea of the genetic makeup of that embryo. Now, PGT, preimplantation genetic testing, is not a perfect test. And sometimes it'll show you that it's normal, but it doesn't actually result in a pregnancy or a live birth. But what it does, it helps us to prioritize which embryos to transfer first. Now, there are clinics that once you have an abnormal embryo, they will not allow you to transfer them. And then there are other clinics like at HRC where it's really at physician discretion. So I would say as long as you have genetic counseling and you know what the risks are involved with transferring an abnormal embryo, we can still transfer it. You are not sort of screwed over in that sense of making that decision. But what we do know is the possible outcomes of transferring a chromosomally abnormal embryo, which many will refer to as non-viable embryos, is depending on the type of chromosomal abnormality, most of the time it's not compatible with life. And most of the time it won't even implant.
Yeah.
There is a possibility of implantation, usually resulting in pregnancy loss, but there have been a handful of case reports of transferring abnormal embryos leading to healthy babies. Very, very rare, but I've seen them, I've heard of them, I've talked to patients who've experienced them.
Well, I love that. So, I mean, basically we are going to have all of our embryos, and, we still have additional conversations to be had about, even some, testing and things like that. But so it was really important to us. My husband and I even went as far as to essentially drop a will, kind of. What did you call it? What was the paperwork that we did as to if something were to happen to both of us?
The disposition.
Yeah, the disposition
of the embryos. Yeah.
So we, you were kind enough to connect us with Dr. Natalie, who owns,
the embryo.
Yeah. So basically, we actually thought through it so far that we said, if anything were to happen to Warren and I both, obviously if something were to just happen to me or just happen to him, the embryos would go to one another. But if something were, God forbid, to happen to both of us, the embryos would be actually sent somewhere to be adopted. And on an internal side, we're actually setting aside funds and stuff to a family to actually make sure that they would get adopted. And all, so that's, it was kind of a big deal for us. So thank you for answering endless questions from me and my husband. I really appreciate that. But that's why we ended up doing, just half. So we have half of the eggs frozen, half of them we, made into embryos. So now we have some embryos. So I think it's so personal, but I guess if I would have if I would have gotten half of the eggs, I would have just fertilized all of them. But because we got so many, it made the most sense to us to do half, see what we get. And then we have the other half, in case, we need them in the future.
Totally.
In case we just want 2 Brady bunches,
Yeah. I mean, I think it was a wise choice, especially for those who have the means to do it, because obviously for a lot of people, there's the financial piece of it that really affects the decision-making process of whether to freeze half your eggs versus fertilize all of them. The main advantage of doing that is, for some who are really attached to those embryos, when you create too many, you sort of feel stuck and you don't know what to do with it. And a common problem that a lot of couples will end up facing is we have leftover embryos. We don't want any more kids. We don't know what to do. And they're sort of stuck because they don't necessarily want to donate it and they don't want to give it up for research and they don't want to discard. So they just keep paying storage fees indefinitely until they figure it out. But it's always a good idea to just sort of fertilize a certain number if you have a really high egg yield. But keeping in mind that not every egg that's retrieved that we try to fertilize is actually going to fertilize. The average fertilization rate is around 70% of the fertilized eggs. Only half of those become embryos. And depending on your age, maybe some of them are chromosomally normal. Some of them or all of them may be abnormal. It just really depends on your age. Given your favorable age range, we expect it to be sort of 50-50. So
there were a lot of stats every step of the way.
Yes.
There's some fall off.
There's always there's a lot of attrition throughout the process, which just goes to show you how inefficient human reproduction really is.
It's wild. Yeah. So that's what we did. And I'm actually glad to talk about it because I think that it might not be something that everyone's thinking about, but that's what we decided to do. And we're so glad that we did that. And again, so appreciative that you were like listening to us and, we just felt super heard and really supported in our decision. So thank you.
Yeah, of course. Now, when you were going through ovarian stimulation, like let's talk about the actual process itself. How did you feel? How did the injections affect you, if at all?
Well, let me think. Well, it's not even just, we'll remove the fire component. Listen when I talk about the fires we're going on, because that made my stress levels more. But honestly, I felt great. I was also, another thing that I think was a myth that I brought up to you right away was the working out versus not working out.
Yeah.
I had talked to other doctors and they're like, no, you really don't want to work out while you're doing this. And I brought it up to you and right away you're like, no, don't do anything like crazy twisting or like yoga moves, but you're fine to work out.
Yeah.
So that was really exciting. But honestly, I felt great. I worked out the same like intensity, really kept my lifestyle the exact same. My husband would have to confirm, but I didn't have any like emotional, outbursts from the hormones. For me, I've been doing I've been injecting peptides and other random exogenous molecules into my body for so long. So I'm like, it wasn't a big deal to do the injections. So it was honestly really easy and it was fun to like see the progress every day. It was really like exciting to go and check out like, the ultrasounds. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. It's really interesting how some people will tell me that it feels like a little science experiment on their body and they like getting to see all the progress. And if this isn't you, I don't want you to feel bad about this, but generally speaking, as your estrogen levels rise, you get all this energy and it's super euphoric. And so most of the time when you're going through ovarian stimulation, during the stimulation process, you feel great, but it's after the retrieval that's sort of like that estrogen is gone. You feel more fatigued. You really feel like you're recovering. It's a whole different thing.
Yeah. That tracked. But honestly, like post retrieval, I didn't really have any of that stuff.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's so impressive. You came in not even 5 days post-op and I scanned you. And normally what ends up happening when I scan is I see tons of free fluid in the pelvis, especially when I think we retrieved a total of 37 eggs or something like that. So it was close to 40. It was a really high number. And typically all of those follicles become cysts and they sometimes are filled with blood. So just a few days after retrieval, you expect the ovaries to be massive. I'm talking with this many follicles, usually over 10 centimeters in size per ovary, lots of fluid in the pelvis. And I go to scan you and your ovaries were like less than 5 centimeters. There was no fluid in your pelvis. I've never seen anything that good. Even though I was doing all the things, because I did an IVF cycle right after you. My ovaries were still huge.
I invited you over to do HBOT.
I know you did. And I really wanted to, the schedule just was a little bit crazy. I went back to work the next day. It was a little nuts. But and I thought to myself, I'm like, man, that would have been really cool to try that out and see how quickly I recovered doing the HBOT and red light therapy. Because I could tell you that I got a lot less eggs than you, and I still had massive ovaries with a lot of fluid in my pelvis. So,
well, we'll have to find a couple people at least to get in this HBOT red light therapy protocol, because it would be amazing if that could help women like expedite healing. We just don't know. Obviously, it seemed to have worked for me, but would be really beneficial.
It would be an interesting study. The main issue that we always face is funding for research. And then for something like HBOT, like access to care, unless, you are already in the hospital doing something else. I get that. But we could at least just have some more N of ones come over and see if it works for them and expedite their healing. Yes. So any of your friends who end up doing an egg retrieval, hopefully they could try it out. And
and some of them are, I think, about to. So
that's
really exciting.
So it is really exciting. How is it, do you think, from Warren's perspective too, going through this process?
Well, my husband is even more of a planner, super detail oriented, did like all of his own research, which I just love him. My husband's the best ever, I think, of course. And so he was completely supportive, totally on board, did have a lot of questions as,
he had great questions.
He really thinks of amazing questions just in general. Even when getting to know people, he asks some great questions. So, I mean, I think we had like an hour and something long call with you, and he asked more questions like an email. So it was really amazing. He is so supportive. I think that's so important. We're also just so excited to start a family. Like it was fun because it's like the first step, right? Like we only got married a year and a half ago. So we like have been purposefully trying not to get pregnant and doing, like natural cycles and, not having sex in those times. So it was like, oh, now we're getting to freeze the eggs and soon we get to like try for baby. So it was, I think at first Warren was like, why are we going to do this? He's like, you're so healthy. He's seen like biological age testing and stuff. And so he's like, well, what's the point? But I was just like, listen, trust me in this. And he's like, then he was all on board. So it was great.
Yeah. And I think it's really interesting how a lot of men don't even realize how, even though you can look so young and feel so young and be in perfect health, our ovaries just age so much faster than we do.
Double the speed, right?
Yes.
That's insane.
It's so unfortunate. And then we're living much longer lives, and what you're supposed to live possibly half of your life, if not more, in menopause. It's wild.
I know. Well, that's why I'm excited about like, the rapamycin stuff that's coming out, potentially delaying ovarian aging. It's so frustrating that we're in 2025 and we don't know why they age at double the speed.
No. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of unknowns when it comes to ovarian physiology and a lot of the research when it comes to prolonging ovarian function and improving ovarian reserve. It's still in its infancy. So
I know, but it's so frustrating for all of us.
I know. And we're in a time where we expect to have answers quickly. So
I mean, we do. And plus it's just like, we have answers to so many other things. This is a massive, it's half of a woman's life, as you said. How do we not know more about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, this was really insightful. I absolutely love all the things that you're doing.
Thank you.
I think that it's genius that you decided to take on preserving your fertility, giving yourself options. It gives you the time to not only start trying naturally and building your family from there, and hopefully it's an easy process and it happens right away, but that when you are potentially even in your 40s and you're wanting more babies, it's something at your fingertips because you have all these eggs and embryos created. And for anyone who has a committed relationship, is considering fertility preservation, you have the choice of either doing it with your partner or without your partner, depending on how things look. And if you have high ovarian reserve, or even if you don't, you could do multiple cycles where you just freeze your eggs and then in a separate cycle do IVF. So there's a lot of different options there. And, it was really great that you were able to do both just from the one cycle, and that you were able to have such a seamless sort of process and recovery.
I know. I'm so grateful for that. And I'm also so grateful that we have this ability and that like medicine has advanced here, because this is just such a blessing to so many people, including myself. And I'm also so grateful that we have incredible forward thinking and, super open-minded doctors like yourself.
Yes. And there are a lot of us out there. You just, you got to find us.
Yeah.
But, and I also think it's just brilliant that you really looked into getting a will for your embryos. From a medical standpoint, there are many scenarios where things happen. We never want to think about the bad things like the death of a partner. But sometimes these things happen. And when it comes to the disposition of embryos, when there is no will in place, which the majority of people don't do, sometimes it ends up being a battle with the family where, the couple has decided to allow one partner to keep the embryos and even pursue parenthood on their own with those embryos. And the family members on the other side are like, well, wait a minute. No, because if you're going to do them, we want to have the ability to be in those kids' lives as much as we want. And you have all the power, and our child isn't around to help facilitate that anymore. So I think that it can lead to a lot of turmoil and a lot of drama, and then court orders, and looking into all of the things that come after creating embryos, particularly in the setting of fertility preservation, is just very, very wise, because you are not only protecting yourselves, you're protecting your embryos. And there's always the option, like you said, that should, God forbid, something happen to the both of you, of allowing an agency to have your embryos for adoption. And for those who don't know what that is, there is such a thing as embryo adoption. So just like you can adopt a child, you can adopt an embryo in order to have that pregnancy yourself. And that embryo is from a previous couple or individual. And so, yeah, it's a great option for those who are looking for something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to us, it was a big responsibility, right? So I'm glad we thought through it as well.
Yeah. Well, Kayla, thank you so much for being here and talking about all this and talking about your experience. And yeah, if you are looking on where to find Kayla Barnes, you should check out her social media channels, both on Instagram. Are you on TikTok?
I do have a TikTok now. Yeah.
Okay, great.
But not posting as much as,
Okay.
It's Instagram, at Kayla Barnes, KaylaBarnes is my main platform. But I'm also posting, I think I'm the only woman posting long form female longevity content on YouTube too. So I started doing that recently.
Your you've been killing it. It's amazing.
Yeah,
I love it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. You got to get on YouTube soon.
So I know eventually we'll get there one day.
You got a lot going on.
Yeah. But thanks again for being here.
Thanks for having me.